What's good, y'all? It's your boy Brazykuts, and we back at it again today with another transformation. Today we are going to be doing a high skin fade with a number 5 on top. Alright, so we're gonna get right into it. So right now we're just combing down the hair, making sure that it is laying down flat. And now we are going in with our number 5 guard, and we are just going to be taking down the top, debulking it. As you can see, every time I do a couple strokes, I am brushing the hair back down just to make sure that it's laying in its natural path. And right now we're putting in our bald line. So if you can see, I like to set in my bald line right on the top of the ear, just because in case I want to dip it down towards the vertical bars or towards the back, to where his occipital bone is, I get to decide that. So I usually set my standard for where I lay my guideline in between the middle of the ear. So right now I'm creating my guideline. I like to contour towards his head shape, just because I feel like the fade does come out a lot better instead of it just being a straight line. So as you can see, I'm dipping it just a little bit below in the bottom, just right below his occipital bone. And right now I'm just taking out all the extra hairs that are laying at the bottom. And right now we're just going to be debulking, clearing out the space underneath. And right now I'm going in with my foil shavers, my Barber foil shavers, and we're just going to be making sure we're getting as close to the skin as possible. And I always like to leave a little bit of space right below that first initial guideline, just because what I do end up doing is I end up tapping down with my foil shaver just to help blend in the baldness a little bit better. So right now I'm going in with my number 3 guard, and we're just going to be debulking, taking down our surface area, making sure that we're able to see if there's any indents, if there's any dark spots, if there's any light spots. So that's usually what I typically do with my fades always, is I debulk first. So once I'm done debulking, I go in my first guard. It is my lever all the way open, and I'm creating about an inch of a guideline, and I'm following the same shape that I have created with my first initial guideline. So it is going to be contoured, it is going to be shaped a little bit. And to be creating this guideline, I'm using the wall magic clips. So now to take out that bottom guideline, we are going to be going with our lever all the way closed, and we are just going to be pushing up that bottom guideline about halfway in between both of those guidelines. So as you can see right now, I'm just using my corners and I'm slowly chipping away at that bottom line. So now I'm going to be dropping my lever about halfway, and I'm just going to complete that blend. And after I'm done going through my system, I will lever play a little bit. So I'll open it, I'll close it if I do see any dark spots, any areas that I need to touch up before I move on to my next guard. Alright, so over here I noticed that there was still a little bit of too much bulk. So I went in with my number 2 guard, and I'm just going to be lining up a little bit more. So it's trial and error. Sometimes you may seem that the guard that you're using is not taking off enough, so you just go back with your steps and you retrace them. Alright, so now I'm going in with my lever open with my number 1, and we're going to be creating our second guideline. Once again, consistent to the last one, and this is going to basically be the last guard we're going to be using to create a guideline. So once I'm done going with it open, I'm going to be closing the lever, and we're just going to be softening up that bottom line. So you have to be aware that that number 1 close is not going to take out that guideline. And what will be taking out this guideline is our half guard, and we're going to be going halfway, and we're just going to be flicking out that bottom guideline. We're going to be slowly closing it as needed. So I like to start halfway and slowly close it, just because with it open, it basically is equivalent to the 1 guard close. So I like to make sure my time is efficient. So that's why I start halfway. And now it is fully closed, and we're still working our way down, making sure that there is no more guideline there. So now for my last step, I'm going to be going in with my number 1.5, and we are, I believe, halfway close. And now we're just looking to soften up this last, I guess you could say, line is more of like a dark area. This last guideline we're going to be softening up, and I'm just going to be going in between my 1.5 and my 1 guard open. So as you can see, the way his hair texture is growing is very different. At the front of the hairline, it's growing sideways, kind of sideways, and then once you get to the middle towards the back, it kind of lays down. So you have to be aware of that and be sure to go against the grain. And now I'm just detailing, going in with my number 1, and I like to switch my clippers. So I use my Babyliss clippers more for detailing, just on preference. The more you get used to clippers, the more you start to learn certain things about each clipper. So I use my Babyliss more for detailing. Alright, so now we're on the other side, and we're basically going to be following the same steps. So before I put in my bald line, if you guys noticed, his hair in the middle at the top of his ear was a lot lighter, is a lot lighter than towards the hairline and towards the back. So that is the reason why we decided to do a high fade for this haircut. This comes in with consultation. So with client consultation, you really have to be aware, study the hair, see, you know, if there's any different types of growth patterns and what would suit them better. So that's the whole reason why we did the high fade for him. So just be aware of your client and just how their hair is growing. So on this side, I did kind of not necessarily mess up, but I should have taken down the bulk at first. I kind of forgot to. So just learn from my mistakes. The haircut still came out really well. It's just, it caused me a little bit more trouble just because there was a lot of bulk kind of within the process of doing the haircut. So you'll notice that throughout the haircut, I'll end up taking down the bulk a little bit better. But besides that, we're still following the same steps. We created our guideline with our open, and now we went close, and then we dropped it halfway. And now we're going back in with the number 1 guard. And as you can see right over here, it took me a little bit of time to scoop out all of that hair. I should have just done it. Sometimes whenever you're cutting hair, you just kind of fall into the rhythm of things. And that's why it's so key to continue following your system, right? Continue from one side, continue the same thing on the other side, so it can come out the exact same way. And this is just a quick tip for any barbers that have trouble when it comes to clients with stretchy skin. What I typically like to do, as you can see with my thumb, I'm stretching out the skin. That helps when I do my fade. The skin doesn't bounce, create any indents. It's easier for me to do my blend. So that's just a little quick tip for you guys. So now we're on to the 2, and like I said, I should have debulked first, but now we're taking on the bulk. Now we're down back to the 1.5, starting halfway, and this is basically going to be the last line that we're taking out. So after this one close, we're going to be switching down to the number 1 guard, and basically this is going to be taking out the rest of that bottom line. Now, so what a lot of people have trouble with when it does come to fading is they always end up stretching out their fade too wide or too high because of the simple fact that they're not focusing on taking out the guideline. They look at all the space above it and they feel like they have to try and take it out. What I want you guys to try and do is specifically just try and focus on that line, taking out that line, starting out from the bottom and flicking it outwards. And this is going to be our final step using our number 3 guard, starting off open, working our way closed until we go towards the back. And to help ensure that my fade is complete, I will follow the exact same steps. I will be cross-checking. So if I fade upwards, the same way we'll be fading back downwards. That's just a tip that I could give you guys for wanting to make sure that your blend is nice and clean. So now we're on to the back, and we're just going to be connecting both of the sides into the back. I typically like doing this because when I find that I focus on one side, I could get it done quicker and I'm more focused and I have more precision. So that's personally me, but I'm gonna let you guys listen and look at the rest. If you guys have any questions, feel free to drop a comment down below. But besides that, just try and follow the steps, guys. So just one other tip that I'd like to let you guys know, when you guys are taking care of the back of the head and you guys are blending it out, when you guys are creating your guidelines, I need you guys to also be aware of the fact that the hair typically is a lot denser at the back of the head. So what I like to do is I like to stretch my guideline out just a little bit more so that the fade kind of matches up towards the sides. I don't want the back to be super compressed and then the sides to be a lot more spread out. So for me, the way that works best is by stretching the back out just a little bit longer than the sides. So that's just another tip that you guys can take down. So my client here, he has very nice hair to fade, and almost instantaneously once I go through my system, it almost blends in right away. But I need you guys to understand that there's not always going to be people, not everybody's hair texture blends in amazing. There's going to be some people that have density problems, or some people have that major indents. But what I need you guys to understand is you need to trust your system. The reason why I'm able to create good consistency is because I trust my system and I also detail. So make sure you first go through your system, and once you're done, detail. There's going to be times where you guys think that what you're doing or the system you're doing is not working, and then you guys give up. But the whole reason why it doesn't work is because you guys haven't fully followed through with it. So I need you guys to always remember to follow through with your system and trust the process. Alright, y'all, so now we're on to his lineup, and before we start creating the line, I'm basically going to be looking for any of the lighter areas, and that's going to be my highest point. So I'm going to want to start at those light areas and work my way across. So I start in the middle and I work my way to the highest point, which could either be the right or the left side depending on how high the receding area is. I'm slowly working my way across. I'm not putting too much weight on it, I'm just tapping it lightly. And one thing you have to remember, especially when it comes to any type of straight hair or even curly hair, is you constantly want to be brushing the hair back down. Because sometimes your trimmer does push the hair out of place, or it pushes it back up, especially when it comes to curly hair. Whenever you do use your trimmer, sometimes the curl itself starts to push back or starts to go away from the trimmer. So just be sure that you always are brushing the hair down. And now we're creating our vertical bars, going in at a 75-degree angle. And usually I always get some type of resting point with my hand, with my trimmer hand, because I don't want to just start tapping into it, because I'm not going to have a steady hand. So usually I'll either place my middle finger on the top of his forehead and I'll get my resting point, and I'm just slightly tapping, following the guidelines that are already there, just defining it. And for me, the most crucial part is always making sure that you get those corners of the boxes sharp. So I will be constantly brushing, guys, right there, as you can see, just to make sure that there's no overlaying hairs at the end of it. And right now, before we add our enhancement, I'm just going to be going over my line and making sure that it is as straight and as clean as possible before I do add my enhancement. So I like to always tell you guys, take your time with it. You don't need to rush through the lineup. You're going to always have to go back in detail. All right, so now we're going to be adding our 245 no drip enhancement, and we're just going to be spraying over that lineup lightly. Not going to be overdoing it, but we just want to make sure we fill in any of the light areas to give them that much fuller look. And I always tell you guys this in almost all of my videos, that when it comes to adding enhancements, I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing. Like I said, because one, you're able to make people look amazing, because some people don't have the sharpest hairlines, and two, it can be an up service. You can charge extra for this, guys. You can get the bang for your buck for this, and potentially you're going to be doing stuff that more times other barbers are not doing. So you guys just want to make sure that you keep leveling up and just keep stepping up your game. And now we're just going to be getting our vertical bars. And when I do my vertical bars, I am fading it into the fade itself. I don't just create a sharp, straight, dark line right off the bat. I like to start darker at the top of the bar and then work my way down, getting lighter towards the fade, because we do want it to have a blended in effect. We don't just want it to be a straight, sharp line. And really getting detail oriented, y'all. I gotta make sure that this comes out super clean. Okay, and now right after that, we're just going to be going in with our trimmers once again and just tapping at the line, making sure that we get any overlaying hairs or any debris. And now for the final step, we're going to be using our straight razor, and same steps as always. We're going to be pulling the skin and we're just going to be letting the razor glide. The razor that I do use is a Turkish razor. I personally like it a lot better than the regular triple cartridge razor, just because it is a lot lighter. For me, I feel like I could glide a lot better throughout the skin. So you can grab it on Amazon. I'll try and find the link down below so you guys could check it out. But yeah, we're just following through the lineup. We're just pulling back the skin and going bit by bit, only using the corner or the heel, not really using the full blade because I want to focus on certain areas. And we're just getting that lineup nice and sharp. And as always, I'm always getting the extra hair laying on the front of his forehead. This helps the hairline pop out a lot better, just because it does create transition from lightness to darkness. So that's what I always do. I always like to just make sure I clean the front of the forehead. And these are basically the finishing touches, guys. Alright, so once again, this is just the before look on my client. And that's the end of the cut, guys. Thank you for sticking by and watching. If you guys could drop a like, a comment, subscribe, and turn on your post notifications so that when I do drop, you guys get the notification. Thank you guys for tuning in. Until next time.